Steve Bentley here, Off-Road Grind. We're going to be working on a, what year is this? 2020 5th Gen 4Runner sweet machine. We're going to be installing a new suspension system today. So we've got some Icon springs in here and a Dobinsons IMS system. Some front coilovers, rear coils, extended brake lines, SPC upper control arms. These are pretty sweet. Extended end links for the rear sway bar and bump stop extensions. So stay tuned, it's gonna be fun. So I'm just going to do some voiceover here as we look through segments of taking the old suspension out, because it's just monotonous in terms of going through it. So you don't need to see the step by step on that, but I'll just talk about what we're going to be doing. So here we're just taking the brake line clips off the spindle. So there's a 12mm bolt there that I was working on, and then on top of the upper control arm there's a 10mm bolt that you need to undo as well. And what that does is when you start moving the wheel assembly around to get the shock out, you're not going to stretch out the brake line, so that's important. So make sure you do that. And the second thing that you want to do, and you'll see this in a little bit, is we want to secure that wheel assembly up into either the upper control arm before we take that off, or the top of the tower once we get the shock out, so that thing doesn't drop down and stretch out the brake cables. That's so important, so don't forget to do that. Let's take off this clip here. Next thing you're going to want to do is remove the clip, or if there's a cotter pin in there, from that castle nut that's underneath the upper ball joint. We want to take that off because we've got to take the spindle off the upper control arm so we can get that upper control arm out and replace that. So if you're leaving the upper control arm in, you're just replacing your shocks, just don't touch that, you're going to be fine. But in this case, we're going to take that upper control arm out, so we need to undo the ball joint there. And after, we're going to show you, you need to remove the end link there for the sway bar in order to get a puller on that upper ball joint and pop that off that tapered pin there. If you've got a pickle fork, you might be able to get in there and jam it in there and lever that out, but I don't, so I used a puller, and you'll see that in a minute. So we'll pop that back in for now, and then we'll work on those lower ball joint deals. Wow, that's nice. Thank you, sir. We're going to undo this bolt here at the bottom of the shock. Yeah, so let's pop that off. I think that's a 19 as well.
Okay.
That same one. Where's my 19? Yeah, that's a 19. So if you can pop that off, and I'll work on the top things. I think they're 14s. And if that might be turning on the other side.
That's probably what it's doing. Let's see.
That's spinning your way.
Alrighty.
Sweet. That didn't pull as much as I thought it was going to. Okay. Sweet. I think these are 14s. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So just loosen these for now as we work on all that other stuff. Okay.
Alright, which one were you popping out?
So this one here,
Okay.
it's going to push that through.
All the way up?
Almost. just taking the front skid plate off so we can access the lower control arm bolt. I think that's a 23 or 21. This is 23. Might be too big. Too big for 21 then?
Yeah, that's right.
22? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sweet, okay. Well, if you can pull that, I'll keep working on this top.
Well, we're just loosening it, right?
Yep. Yeah, we just want to loosen the front and the back one here.
Let's see if I can.
So we can pop those. There we go. So we loosen the two side cam bolts for the lower control arm after lowering the two lower ball joint bolts there, and it just dropped away. So let's undo the bolts from the top. Power. And drop that out. These 14s are almost off.
Oh, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty similar. Bottom part is a lot thicker.
You have this little plate. This whole thing's
Oh,
screwed
yeah.
on.
Big collar there. Removing this little bracket here to get access to the upper control arm bolt. See if we can't get this arm out of the way and off the spindle without having to get a puller on there. So what we did here is we've got the brake wires off. Took the 14 mil, 3 of them bolts or nuts off the top of the strut mount and lowered the lower control arm, taking the bottom bolt out of the strut, loosened the cam bolts and took out the 2 lower ball joint bolts and did this 12 mil bracket here. Push that out of the way so I can get a wrench on here to tighten this up later, but also to loosen it, and then we'll pull the upper control arm bolt up through the engine bay. I remember on mine I had to undo a
Yeah,
AC wire.
Yeah, look if there was an AC line or something. I was gonna. You get a flashlight and get a bear. Move it. Yeah, good. It just popped out of the little socket and then we can.
Okay.
It's still a really, really tight squeeze, but I don't think we need to move anything.
So we got the nut off the back of the upper control arm. And just pushing the pin through. Is it okay if I keep pushing it?
Yeah, I'm going to hand it there and I'm kind of guiding it.
Okay.
All right.
The lower part's out now. Keep bashing it up. Okay, I'm going to move the arm to see if it lets it easy for you to move it.
Yeah, she got stuck.
So can you throw that light in there?
Yep.
So we're taking out this AC line bracket to get the upper control arm bolt
And then
out.
it's right. Come on. You can see the bolt's right there.
There, see it?
All right. That's the old one.
Okay, cool.
Okay, they're right behind you. I grabbed the box and brought it over.
Can you pass me that wire?
Oh, sure can.
I'm gonna attach this. Spin more of it. So we just popped the sway bar link off, and I got a little puller here on the upper control arm ball joint to pop that off. And then we'll pop the other one back in. There we are. Sweet. Okay. And there's, oh, here's the new one, right? You have the other one?
I've got the other one.
And we use the same bolt in that. So these SPC upper control arms, the short part goes to the back, and then the rounded top is on top. You ready?
Yep.
Good. Keep pushing. I'm just moving the bottom around to see if it will go into the hole. I can feel it down at the end. It's going to be easier to torque because it's just pulling down on it. It's 87 foot-pounds for the upper control arm. Unfortunately, this top nut doesn't turn when I'm, or the bolt doesn't turn when I'm cranking on the lower nut. So that's all good. So we'll pop the upper ball joint in. Okay. So I've set the star plate here so that the ball joint is facing like that forward. So I'm just going to pop that on there. We'll mess around with that more later. And okay, so that's in. So now we're going to take this wire off and lower this down a little bit more, and then pop the control off. Yeah, I'll lift it up. All right. Those go down a lot easier if you're not having to lift the whole thing up.
upside down, so I'm doing everything back. Not working very well.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the shocks. They're 101, which makes sense. They would be high. Dude, that felt like it goes forever.
What's that?
That felt like it goes forever before it connects. Okay, that's all done.
And then there's the screw to the.
This one.
Yep. Shoot, I'll break your chair.
That's a 10.
Yes. Oh.
On the back, and we're going to start by taking the sway bar end links off because we're going to be replacing these. And we've got some extended links that'll pop in there. And I'm going to undo these brake lines here, or brackets, emergency brake. Take off the front bolt there on the lower trailing arm. And we may need to undo these upper trailing arms as well in order to create the separation from the top to the bottom here in order to get the new coils in. We'll see how that goes. And then pop off the old strut and get that back in. Okay, we're moving along. I took it off the 17 mil bolt on the bottom of the rear strut, and looks like a 19 mil nut on the top of this icon. We're gonna have to secure it though. As I try and undo this, it spins the strut, so I'll just lock that in place. So I think. Go. So we're just going to pull this nut out, washer, push it in.
Tilt the one side to bring down the other.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta get that pin hard bar off too. Can you grab me a little slot screwdriver?
A little what?
A slot screwdriver?
You have them on your
Oh,
desk?
there might be one. I think we were using one as a punch.
Oh.
Okay. Or actually a bit more. Getting it out is one thing, getting the other one in is another. So we pop the pad hard bar and the sway bar links off on each side. Took the coils out, or the strut. Dropped that trailing arm on the driver's side and took the panhard bar off. Take this little clip off first so that it doesn't get damaged, little brake line. And we're going to try and get these coils in without taking the upper trailing arms off, because that helps keep the axle from diving forward. Once we pop these off, it'll move an awful lot. So took this coil out, just jack up the other side, and that tilts this side down, and this coil just popped right out. And let's see how this goes. So there's the old coil. I'm gonna get that top hat out of there. And just like to take a picture. So these coils you had weren't too terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like not a big difference. The OEM coils are so much smaller. You can see the difference in height that we need to accommodate for. So this will be okay, that's good. So that's a little over 18, so that's not terrible. And you might be able to wiggle them in. So I'll try. So actually, if you can jack that side up a little bit more. Because they're the right height, but I got to get over this inch and a half block on the bottom.
Are you ready? More?
Oh yeah, yeah. Get organized. I think we're gonna get it. We just gotta keep pressing that down.
You're not going to squeeze that?
They're not super squeezable. I'm so close though. Ah, there we go. Okay. So there's a pigtail over here that you want to line up. That's butt right up against that sucker there. So it's going to spin this around a little bit more, and then we're in. That's way easier than my other ones. Okay. Okay, you can let it down. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's pop that strut in first
Okay.
while we've got it lower, because it'll make it easier to. We won't have to compress it as much. I'm glad we got it in this little housing. There we go. Almost. There we go. So that goes on here. Man, this makes it a lot easier with that cutout. Can you push it from where you're at up towards this way? There we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and then that top. Sure. And then I'll wait until I get that threaded thing. So I'm just gonna wiggle this up. Good. Is your brake line okay still?
Yes.
Is it good?
Yes.
Yeah. That was easy. Oh, not too bad.
I feel it. Right now, I don't know how much I've got on it, but it's.
I'm gonna go like this side now. I think it might be a bit better of an angle. Oh yeah, there we go. on these, and I'll work on the sway bar links. So these just go up in here. They're just like extensions. Oh, there's nuts. So this has to come off,
Yeah.
and then those go up in there. Probably this way.
And then that rubber goes on the bottom.
Yep. Because you got so much lift now,
Yeah.
you need to extend them so that it hits sooner rather than things getting too stretched because they're traveling too far to hit the bottom. That looks like another 12. And then this is like a, just extend these out. You got a pretty good lift here. So. I think this is half the height of your lift. And just putting the extended end links in for the rear sway, extended end links in for the rear sway bar. And Mike's working on the extended bump stops. Well, thanks so much for watching this install of the suspension upgrade for this 2020 5th Gen 4Runner. We had a lot of fun putting this together, and I guess it took about 5 hours or so to put it all in and get it rocking. And looks great. I love the way the truck looks now, and Mike carries a lot of gear off-roading. He's a photographer, so this is certainly going to help him manage all the equipment that he's got along with that rooftop tent on the top, and be able to still maintain the integrity of that suspension that he's got and be able to do all the things he wants when he gets into the backcountry. So awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon.